My name is Maren Voss. I'm 34 years old. And I am the only person from my town who is actually talking about this. 3 years ago, I noticed something so obvious, so impossible to ignore, that I assumed everyone already knew. They didn't. Or they pretended they didn't. Which, I learned, is a very different thing. I started asking questions. Simple ones at first. Then the kind that made people go quiet mid-sentence. Then the kind that made my own neighbors stop waving back. I have documents. I have dates. I have a voicemail from a county official that I was never supposed to receive, and I have never deleted it. Nobody wanted me to find what I found. And when I got close, really close, someone made sure my name ended up on a list I still don't fully understand. Before I tell you what actually happened, if you're new here, please like this video and subscribe. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? Now, let me take you back to when it all started. Kettlebrook. Population 2,200. Sitting at the edge of a valley in rural Pennsylvania, quiet, contained, and completely unremarkable on paper. I moved there in 2019, rented a house on Delaware Street, unpacked my boxes, met my neighbors, and within 2 weeks I noticed something I couldn't name yet. No children outside, no bikes on driveways, no noise. The kind of noise you don't notice until it's completely gone. Scraped knees, arguments over sidewalk chalk, screen doors slamming. Nothing. I asked my neighbor Donna. She shrugged. Said kids these days stay indoors. I let it go. Then I went to the grocery store. Then the park. Then the school on Mercer Road, and I stopped walking. The playground equipment was rusted. The swings weren't moving. Not because it was empty that day. It looked like it had been empty for years. I took a photo. Sent it to no one. Just stood there. Something was wrong with Kettlebrook. I didn't know what yet. But I knew, the way you know before your brain catches up, that I was standing inside a question nobody had bothered to ask. And I was about to ask it. I went home that night and opened my laptop. Simple search. Kettlebrook birth records. Public county database. I wasn't expecting anything unusual. I was just looking for a number. I found one. The last registered birth in Kettlebrook was September 14th, 2015. I stared at that date for a long time. Then I searched again. Different database. Same result. Then a third. September 14th, 2015. A girl. Mother listed. Father listed. No complications noted. And then nothing. For years of nothing before I even arrived. I pulled up the national average. In a town of 2,200 people, you'd expect roughly 22 births per year. In 4 years, that's nearly 90 children who should exist in Kettlebrook. 90. I wrote that number on a piece of paper and left it on my kitchen table. Looked at it every morning for a week. I found the mother of that last baby. Her name was Cindy Marsh. She'd moved to Columbus in 2016. I sent her a message through Facebook, short, polite, casual. She read it within minutes. She never replied. But she blocked me within the hour. That told me everything I needed to know about how scared people already were. Cindy Marsh wasn't the only one who left Kettlebrook. I started mapping it. Quietly. Spreadsheet on my laptop, curtains closed. Every family I could find who had lived in Kettlebrook between 2013 and 2019 and left before I arrived. 17 families. All with children under 10. All gone. Not gradually. Not scattered across years. 14 of those 17 families left within an 8-month window. Between January and August 2016. Something happened in 2016. I didn't know what yet. But 17 families don't quietly vanish from a small town without a reason that has weight to it. I found 3 of them online. Reached out carefully. Introduced myself as a new Kettlebrook resident. Friendly. Curious. No agenda stated. 2 never responded. The third one did. A woman named Paula. She agreed to a phone call. We spoke for 4 minutes. She told me Kettlebrook was a lovely town. Good people. She just needed a change of scenery. Her voice was flat the entire time. Rehearsed. Like she'd given that answer before. Then I asked one question. Just one. Did anything happen around 2016 that you remember? For seconds of silence. Then she said, I have to go. And hung up. I called back twice. Straight to voicemail. Paula never picked up again. I needed something harder than silence. I needed someone who had actually been inside Kettlebrook long enough to see what changed. Dr. Eugene Hartle had practiced family medicine in Kettlebrook for 22 years. Retired in 2017. Still lived 12 miles outside town on a property he'd owned since the 90s. I drove there on a Tuesday morning. unannounced. He answered the door, looked at me for a long moment, and said, "I wondered when someone would come." That sentence stopped me cold. We sat at his kitchen table. He made coffee, set a folder down between us without me asking. He'd noticed the pattern in 2014, quietly logging it. Patient consultations dropping. Prenatal appointments gone. Young couples who'd been trying to conceive coming back with nothing. Month after month. He flagged it internally. Filed a report with the county health board in March 2015. They acknowledged receipt. Nothing happened. He filed again in October 2015. Detailed. Documented. 12 pages. The response he got back was 4 sentences long. Thanked him for his concern. Called it a regional demographic fluctuation. He slid the response letter across the table toward me. I read it twice. At the bottom, a name. A signature. A county official who, I would later discover, hadn't worked for the county since 2013. A signature from someone who hadn't worked for the county in 2 years. I sat with that for 3 days before I moved. Then I pulled Kettlebrook's water quality reports. Public record. Every municipality files them annually with the state environmental agency. Kettlebrook had filed every year. Clean. Compliant. Nothing flagged. But Dr. Hartle had given me something else before I left his kitchen. A name. A former environmental consultant who'd done independent testing in the Kettlebrook Valley in late 2015. His name was Rob Delaney. Worked freelance. No longer listed on any consulting database. It took me 6 days to find a phone number. He picked up on the second ring. I told him why I was calling. Silence. Then, "How did you get this number?" I told him Dr. Hartle gave it to me. Longer silence. He agreed to talk. But not on the phone. He told me to drive to a rest stop off Route 322. Specific bay. Specific time. I went. He arrived 8 minutes late. Sat in my passenger seat. Never told me his current employer. But he opened his phone and showed me a private test result from October 2015. 3 chemical compounds. None of them on the official public report. One of them had a known link to reproductive disruption. He screenshot nothing. He showed me. Then he put his phone away. They knew, he said. They knew in 2015. They knew in 2015. I drove home from that rest stop doing 10 under the speed limit. Hand steady. Mind running at something I couldn't slow down. If they knew in 2015, then every clean water report filed after that was a decision. Not an oversight. A decision. I submitted a Freedom of Information request the next morning. Formal. Detailed. Specific date ranges. Specific chemical names from what Rob had shown me. The confirmation email arrived in 4 minutes. Request received. Standard processing time, 20 business days. 20 business days passed. Nothing. I followed up. Politely. Then firmly. Then through a state-level oversight office. On day 38, I received a response. 11 pages. Mostly redacted. Black bars covering entire paragraphs. Whole sections reduced to a single visible sentence, surrounded by nothing. But on page 7, one paragraph survived the redaction. It referenced an internal review. Initiated in January 2015. 2 months before Dr. Hartle even filed his first report. They weren't responding to his concern. They already knew before he raised it. I printed page 7. Circled that date in red pen. Pinned it to the wall above my desk. Then I filed a second FOIA request. Broader. More aggressive. 2 weeks later, I received a letter. Not a response. A warning. The letter told me to direct all further inquiries through a specific legal liaison office. No name. Just a P.O. box in Harrisburg. I didn't stop. I stepped back instead. Pulled wider. Started searching beyond Kettlebrook. Same state, same time frame, same demographic pattern. It took 4 days. I found them. 2 towns. Both in the northeastern corridor. Both rural. Both within 200 miles of Kettlebrook. Drayfield. Population 1,800. Last registered birth, November 2015. Colton Falls. Population 3,100. Last registered birth, February 2016. 3 towns. Same silence. Same empty playgrounds. Same missing generation of children. Nobody had connected them. Not publicly. Not in any report I could find. Not in any news article. Not anywhere. I pulled satellite images of all 3 towns. Lined them up on my screen side by side. Kettlebrook. Drayfield. Colton Falls. All 3 sat within 15 miles of the same watershed. Same water source. Feeding 3 separate municipal supply systems. 3 separate sets of clean public reports. I called Dr. Hartle immediately. Told him what I found. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Maren, there's something I didn't show you when you came to my house. I wasn't sure I could trust you yet. I think I can now." Dr. Hartle asked me to come back. Same kitchen. Same table. But this time he didn't make coffee. He placed a manila envelope in front of me. Thick. Edges worn. Like it had been handled many times in dark rooms before reaching this one. Inside, printed emails. Internal communications between 3 county environmental officers and a state-level agency I didn't recognize. Dated between 2014 and 2016. The language was careful. Bureaucratic. Designed to say everything while admitting nothing. But one thread ran through all of it. They had a name for it internally. Not a chemical name. Not a case number. They called it the corridor problem. The corridor. Kettlebrook. Drayfield. Colton Falls. All referenced by that single phrase across dozens of emails. Someone inside that agency had printed every one of these. Smuggled them out. Handed them to Dr. Hartle in 2017, 2 months before he retired. I asked him who. He shook his head. They made me promise. I asked if they were still alive. He looked at his coffee cup. As far as I know. I asked if they were still inside the agency. He nodded once. Slowly. Meaning, whoever handed him this envelope was still sitting inside the system. Still showing up to work. Still pretending nothing happened. And still, apparently, watching. The corridor problem. I said those 3 words into my phone recorder driving home. Just to hear them out loud. Someone had named this. Categorized it. Filed it under a phrase neat enough to survive internal emails without triggering alarm. That meant it wasn't chaos. It was managed. I went back to the public birth records. All 3 towns. But this time I didn't just look at the numbers. I looked at how they were filed. Kettlebrook's records had 3 amendments. Minor. Easy to miss. Filed quietly between 2016 and 2018. Each one adjusted a previous entry. Small corrections officially. But each amendment pushed a birth registration date forward, out of the critical window. Drayfield had 5 amendments. Same pattern. Colton Falls had 9. 17 total adjustments across 3 towns. All filed by different county clerks. All approved without review flags. Individually, clerical corrections. Completely routine. Together, a systematic erasure of a timeline that would have made the pattern visible to anyone looking. Someone had gone into the data after the fact and quietly moved the evidence. Not deleted. Moving it is smarter. Deletion leaves a hole. Amendment leaves a clean surface. I documented every single change. Cross-referenced the filing dates. Mapped the clerks. 2 of the 3 clerks had transferred out of their positions within 6 months of filing the amendments. I found one of them on LinkedIn. Her current employer? The same unrecognized agency from Dr. Hartle's emails. I needed faces. Real ones. Documents and data tell you what happened. People tell you what it felt like to live inside it. I made a list of 12 families still living in Kettlebrook. Families who had been there before 2015 and never left. Families who would have been trying to build something, a home, a life, children right in the middle of whatever this was. I knocked on 9 doors over 2 weeks. 4 didn't answer. 2 said they were busy and closed the door before I finished my sentence. 3 let me in. Margaret and Tom Fielding. Married 2011. Tried to conceive for 6 years. Every test came back normal. Doctors found nothing. They stopped trying in 2018. Margaret said it quietly, hands flat on her kitchen table, like she'd made peace with something that never deserved peace. A man named Curtis. Wouldn't give his last name. Told me his wife had 2 miscarriages between 2014 and 2016. 3rd pregnancy, they moved to her mother's house in Vermont for the final trimester. That baby survived. He leaned forward when he said it. Like surviving was something that required explanation. The 3rd family, a woman named Diane. Alone now. Husband left in 2017. She looked at me and said, "You're not the first person to come asking." I set my pen down. Who came before me? She looked at the window. Then back at me. A man. Government ID. Said it was routine. That was 4 years ago. We never heard anything after. A government investigator. For years ago. Never followed up. I wrote that down and circled it 3 times. Then I went looking for the science. Not the public reports. Not the sanitized county summaries. The actual peer-reviewed research on the 3 chemical compounds Rob Delaney had shown me at that rest stop. It took me 2 weeks to track down studies that hadn't been buried in journal paywalls or quietly retracted. I found 4. The first, a 2013 study out of the University of Michigan. Reproductive disruption in communities with prolonged low-level exposure to compound interaction. Not single chemicals. The combination. The cocktail effect that standard water testing doesn't screen for because nobody tests for compounds together. Only individually. The second study, European. 2016, funded independently. Found statistically significant drops in viable pregnancies in 3 separate rural communities near industrial watershed sites. The third had been retracted in 2017. No reason publicly stated. I found the lead researcher. Still teaching. Different university now. She agreed to a 30-minute call. Within 10 minutes, she told me her retraction wasn't voluntary. Pressure had come from above her department. She was given a choice, retract or lose funding for every project her entire team was running. She retracted. The 4th study was never published. She had written it herself after the retraction. Kept it private. She emailed it to me that same night. 43 pages. Kettlebrook was referenced on page 11. By name. Kettlebrook is still there. Population 2,200. Same number as when I arrived. Same quiet streets. Same rusted playground on Mercer Road. No official investigation has been opened. No public statement has been issued. The FOIA liaison P.O. box in Harrisburg was quietly deactivated 8 months after I sent my last request. I still have everything. The emails. The amendments. The unsigned letter. The voicemail from the county official. The 43-page study with Kettlebrook on page 11. I gave copies to 3 separate people in 3 separate cities. People I trust. People who know what to do if something happens to the originals. Or to me. Last month I drove back down Deller Street. Past Donna's house. Past the grocery store. Past the school on Mercer Road. A woman was pushing a stroller on the sidewalk. I slowed down. Looked twice. She was visiting. Out-of-state plates. The playground was still empty. Here is what I know for certain. 3 towns. 1 watershed. 17 manipulated records. A retracted study. A whistleblower still inside the system. A government investigator who showed up once and disappeared. And 90 children who should exist in Kettlebrook alone. Who don't. Nobody has been held accountable. Nobody has been charged. Nobody has even officially admitted there is a pattern. But you know now. And that is exactly what they were trying to prevent. If this story deserves answers, share it. Because silence is exactly how this survived this long.